man, and a lot has happened since you and I last saw each other.
Yep.
I mean, it's been insane with what's going on around here, from the sports to the COVID to everything else in between. And, to start with the sports, I mean, Joe Judge has got to be delusional.
He's still talking, I think.
I feel bad for him because I really do think he's a good football coach. I really do, folks. He's got no shot offensively. They have no confidence. They have no quarterback to speak of. They've had one of the worst passing days in the history of the NFL yesterday in Chicago. It's not like I didn't think it was coming. It doesn't, I kind of felt like the last 4 weeks here without Daniel Jones were just going to be throwaway weeks, and it was going to look ugly. And I know Giant fans are sick of it, and they don't want to hear about foundation building. They don't want to hear about ex-players that are making more money other places that want to, that are texting him saying that they wish they would have never left. I think it would be easy to find those players and call them up and say, is that really what you feel? And I'm trying to think who those players are. There's got to be a handful of them, right? Dalvin Tomlinson, maybe?
Yeah, he left for more money. He went to the Minnesota Vikings.
So give him a call, see what he says.
Right, see if he's the guy.
Maybe it's because it's 35 degrees below zero there. I don't know. You never know why.
Maybe. I mean, they were at least more. They're eliminated now.
It was bizarre. It was a bizarre rant. It was trying to defend himself. And I'm like, got to stop.
So for people who don't know, he went on for 11 minutes and 50 seconds yesterday, answering a single question without interruption, almost 12 minutes of speaking, where he basically was defending himself and giving reasons why he should remain the coach. And a lot of these things that you're bringing up were just like crazy things. I mean, he also was talking about how bad the locker room was when he got it. So he just trashed Pat Shurmur. He's trashed Jason Garrett. He's talking about other organizations, about how much better the Giants are than these other organizations. I mean, that finger pointing stuff, I think, makes him look so much worse when he's trying to make himself look better.
Yeah, I remember who built that locker room and who put the players in that locker room.
Oh, yeah, Dave Gettleman.
Yes, exactly. And Dave Gettleman is currently employed by
the New York Giants.
Right. So, I mean, so I could sit here and I can listen to all of this. I'm like, oh, my God, just shut up. Just be quiet. I don't want to hear it anymore. Just be quiet. Stop. You're just digging yourself a deeper hole because I just know how people are going to react to it around here. When you're from around here, you understand how fans react. And, there's going to be a degree of fandom. There's going to be the fans that are just ticked off beyond any sort of sanity. And then there's going to be that middle fan that is disgusted and wants changes just for change's sake. So no matter what he said yesterday, I just felt like he was digging himself a deeper hole. And if they were going to keep him, they probably had already made the decision to keep him. But after yesterday, I'm like, what?
Well, this is what I wanted to get to right away because I'm so confused by this. So you had a report from Adam Schefter when we were on vacation that Daniel Jones and Joe Judge are expected back next year. That's an Adam Schefter report, and that the team reportedly believes both men deserve a chance to prove themselves next season. But then you have Joe Judge yesterday basically doing a WFAN monologue on why he should keep his job. So is he keeping his job or not? If I were told by John Mara, this is just me. Now, I know Joe Judge and I think differently. But if I was told by the owner that I have my job next year, I wouldn't be singing for my supper yesterday for 12 minutes straight. So what is happening?
I think he's paying attention to social media. I think, I'm sure he has family members that are probably telling him what's going on, and he probably realizes what's going on, and he hears it and he sees it and he's reacting to it. All I know is I'm just like, stop.
Yeah, stop talking.
Just stop. You could just say, look, we're battling, we're fighting, we're playing hard. I know that we have very little opportunity on offense to really make any sort of big plays, and it's unfortunate that it's ended up this way this season. But I know that at least the guys are out there giving their best effort, and I know their best effort isn't worth much because obviously the numbers speak to that. We all realize what's happening here. And he could have said that, and then we all could have came in here this morning and dissected that and said, look, he's talking about the injuries. He's talking about right now, at the present time, right now, and I'm not including Daniel Jones in this comment because Daniel Jones is not on the field. He's hurt. But right now, they have the absolute, without question, worst quarterback situation in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Without question.
Easy.
It's not even a debatable point. I mean, there's nobody else worse off than they are right now. And the numbers speak to that. And Mike Lennon, I'm sure, is a nice fellow and everything else like that, but is completely in over his head.
4 of 11 for 24 yards.
Freddie Kitchens should be like, goodbye. They got to start over with another offense coordinator. That I will say 100%, because even your worst offensive coordinator should be able to get. Look at Sean Mannion last night. I know your Vikings got killed, but even he could actually move around and throw and make some pass plays.
Yeah.
I mean, it is beyond belief that it looked as bad as it did yesterday, and then Joe Judge trying to explain why he belongs. You put those two things together, and now I sit here and I'm like, what are they doing?
Well, net passing yards yesterday were -10 for the Giants.
I know that. I know. Look,
and he was asked about it by Jordan Rannon of ESPN. He goes, I'm not going to get into this. Is Joe Judge getting asked about this. And he goes, I don't want to get into an argument about stats, Jordan. It is what it is. It's not an argument about stats. I mean, you had one of the worst passing performances in the history of sports. I mean, so it's not an argument.
Well, he did say it is what it is. And basically what that means is, look, man, we suck offensively.
Yeah.
We have no quarterback play to speak of. We have no passing game that presents any sort of danger to the opposing defense. Therefore, that's what it is means. That I know that, but he's not going to come out and say that. He's just not going to. Instead, he's going to go on a 12-minute rant trying to explain why he should still be here. And I agree with you. I mean, like, if he was told that he was still going to be here,
he wouldn't have said all that yesterday.
No, he just would have said, look, there are times in the NFL where you are struck with adversity and you got to handle it and you got to deal with it and you got to try to be as professional as you can be. There's nothing really that he could have said yesterday that would have quelled the disdain, the disgust, the frustration, the absolute embarrassment that they have become. There's nothing that he could have said. But what he did say and the way he did go about it made it 50 times worse.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm wondering, does he say this same type of stuff to John Mara behind closed doors when they meet? Does he sit there and go, hey, by the way, this week I got 3 or 4 texts from former Giants. I wish they were still here.
Yeah, all right. So, I where he came from, look, they know more about football in New England than anybody else in the world. I don't know what else to tell you. Maybe them in Baltimore. It seems like those two teams are always...
Yeah, Bill Belichick for sure.
And John Harbaugh, and of course Andy Reid, maybe out in Kansas City. But those guys have been around for a long time. They're grizzled. They're Super Bowl champions. Joe Judge is a Super Bowl champion as an assistant coach. He knows what it takes to get something done. But again, I go back to the Giants as an organization, and I look at them and I say, look, they got family members throughout that organization. They have family members that have very loud voices when it comes to selecting players, deciding, what's going on in a room. And when you get put into that room and you're an outsider like Joe Judge is, and you go into that room and you're trying to change things, and there are family members that are a part of all of this, forget it. It's impossible. You're not changing anything. If there's anybody connected to that family for any period of time, and they're in that room, and you are the new guy coming into that room, they may be all in on you, but they're going to be going against you when things turn the way they have turned now. I don't care what anybody says. It's human nature. And the one thing about family, you never fire them. You never fire them. They're always there. They're always going to be around. And I'm just saying that's a part of who the Giants are. So everybody's like, oh, go out and get an outsider. Go out and get good luck with that. That's not happening.
But how deep does that go? I mean, does that mean
it goes at the top of it's the top. But John Mara is running this team. It's just, it is what it is, and you got to realize that. And I've been saying that. I feel like I've been saying that for 15 years.
No, you have, but they've also had success during that time as well.
Well, Tom Coughlin came in, and they had success with Jim Fossil to a degree.
I went to a Super Bowl.
Right, and then they had, obviously, the Super Bowls with Tom Coughlin. And, I don't know, Tom was getting older. I don't know if everything just got kind of tired around him, and then they decided to go with Ben McAdoo. And Ben McAdoo is a hell of a coach. There's no question about that. But was he the right guy to be the coach for the Giants? I mean, this is a different place, man. And I think Joe Judge last year rose above all of it. And I think we all appreciated the way that he went about his business and the way that he talked.
I really thought that they were turning a corner. I mean, we both picked him to win the division. I thought that he was that foundation that he's been talking about this year being laid. I actually thought he did that last year.
What I would have done yesterday is I would have taken, and I don't know if they would have done this, but, they were playing their own game out in Chicago and all this other stuff. But I would take the game that Tom Brady had against the Jets and I would show it to Daniel Jones. And I said, look, this is how I want you to play quarterback. Just understand this. I understand that you may have to run every now and again. You don't have to put your head down. You don't have to put your shoulder down. We supposedly pay Saquon Barkley $1 gazillion to do that. Let him do that. You have to play smart football. And I do think that Daniel Jones is a good player. Do I ever think he'll be a great player, Hall of Fame player? I don't believe that. I know that he wants to be great. I know he's trying to prove his worth to his players. We were talking about this yesterday, how a quarterback like him, in two different situations, one against the Cowboys and one against the Eagles, he lowered his head and tried to make something happen. And in the Eagles, it was the second play from scrimmage, I think it was, which, was not a bright thing for him to do. And that ultimately ended his season. The Cowboy thing I get because it was down on the goal line. The 1-2 is there. I think the toughness is there. There has to be more like of a refinement to who he is as a player if he's going to be good in this league for a long time.
No, you got to pull the plug on him. I'm sorry.
They're not going to. I don't think. Because I don't know what the alternative is.
Oh my God! But we have this argument all the time.
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying, give me an alternative, and I'll tell you.
So here's what these are the options, right? These are the options that you have. You can either stick with a guy that doesn't have it. Because that's what sticking with Daniel Jones is. When you say, what's the alternative? I mean, anything but a guy who doesn't have it.
Well,
we have to try something else. So that is out of there. The other thing is that there's a draft where you've got 2 picks in the top 10 right now, and you can decide if one of those guys is your future. If it's not, then you continue to build the team, and then you find a stopgap guy. And if there's some miracle out there that you can go trade for a veteran that makes sense with your cap situation and may be difficult, you can also look into that. But what you first need to do is establish whether or not the guy you have is going to be your future. And if anybody has seen the last 3 years with all of his injuries and all of the turnovers and all of the mistakes and never being very good and says that we need to invest in Daniel Jones is nuts. So, I mean, it's not so much about the alternative. It's about the present, and the present isn't any good. So that's why it just drives me crazy.
But just know this, though, that today it's not about Daniel Jones because he didn't play and he hasn't played. But your argument about the injuries is well taken and well said and understood. I don't know what the alternative for them is. If they go, let's just say they decide to draft, say, this kid Pickett from Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. You're starting over again. And if you're going to start over with a new general manager, if they decide to go outside the organization and it's not Kevin Abrams or somebody within the organization or somebody who's had ties to this organization or somebody who has no ties to Joe Judge, you're asking for an unmitigated disaster and another new coach next year if you decide to keep Joe Judge. I mean, this is like, how many times have I talked about stability at the top of the franchise and how important it is and why that's how you need to grow.
But stability only happens when you find the right guys. And the Giants haven't been able to do that. So, I mean, stability doesn't happen. You don't have stability when you hire the wrong guy and he drives a franchise into the ground. I mean, we talk about these guys, McAdoo and Shermer and Judge, and I mean, basically all the three of them are the same, it sounds like. There were guys who were good at what they did as far as being coordinators and then can't handle the job once they got the head coaching job.
I can look at all three guys and I can say that, they didn't have Aaron Rodgers. They didn't have Tom Brady. They didn't have Justin Herbert. They don't have Joe Burrow. They don't have Mac Jones. They don't have anybody. They don't have any of those guys. The most important position, and you take a look at the rundown of the playoffs right now, with maybe the exception of the Eagles, with Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. They did clinch a playoff spot, which is amazing. So you have two teams from the NFC East in the NFC playoffs, which is amazing. The one thing I will say about Jalen Hurts, that guy's a freaking competitor. The other thing I'll say about the Philadelphia Eagles, they represent their city. Like they're a hard scrabble, physical, in your face, run first offense and get after your ass on defense.
Yeah, which is something that Joe Judge said he wanted to make the Giants. I want to make this team reflect the area that we're from. And
Well, he said it, and that's right.
But he's
But he has no
so far from accomplishing
that. They have no quarterback to speak of, and they have no pass rush to speak of.
Right, but you just said it. They got no quarterback to speak of. They got
now they don't.
The worst quarterback situation in the NFL.
Right now they do.
These coaches don't have any good quarterbacks to work with, but we're bringing back Daniel Jones next year.
I don't think they're going to have a choice, G. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, of course they have a choice. They've got 2 top 10 draft choices.
So would a stopgap for you be? I'm just going to throw a name out there. I'm not saying he's coming here, but you said stopgap.
Sure, stopgap guy.
Andy Dalton.
I mean, honestly, if
Is that a stopgap guy?
If you're building the team and you're planning to find your next quarterback and it's not in this draft, I'm fine with someone like that. I really am.
Well, that's what you're talking about.
But if you're telling me that this new GM says, I don't want any of these quarterbacks in the top 10 because I don't think they're good enough to be top 10 quarterbacks. Daniel Jones isn't the guy. I'm building the team. I'm waiting to find that right quarterback. I'm fine with that. I just don't want to bring back a guy I know isn't it.
They're in salary cap hell, too, as well. The other thing I will say this to all Giant fans out there, for those of you, because not all of you, but for those of you who do have the Russell Wilson Jones, you don't want it. You don't want it. I'm telling you. You do not want it here. You do not want him here. You do not want a part of this franchise. You just don't. It's not what you think it is. It's just not what you think it is.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.